Hi everyone, Sneemaster here with a preview of the Aegis Idris frigate. The Idris is a line of frigates that can function as small ship carriers, as well as being very useful in combat against other ships. The Idris was designed by Aegis for the United Empire of Earth on a no-bid contract to be used against the Tevarin and then later the Xi'an and Vanduul. The name for the ship class came from the Battle of Idris-4 during the First Tevarin War. The Idris is not officially released flyable yet, as it's still being developed for Squadron 42, but we do get to see an empty hull version flying during events in Star Citizen right now. Keep in mind that all of these stats listed in this video could change until the Idris is finalized. The Idris is 242 meters long and 126 meters wide. The ship is larger than a hammerhead, but smaller than a javelin. It supports a crew of between 8 and 28 people. There are crew quarters, mess hall, infirmary, brig, briefing room, engineering rooms, weapons lockers, captains and officers' quarters, and probably a few other rooms. The bridge is located on top of the ship and helps both navigate the ship and do air traffic control for the launching and landing of the smaller ships. There is a central elevator to get on or off the ship, as well as go between floors. There might be other elevators in the ship too. There should be some external docking ports on the Idris to dock with ships and stations. I see one docking port on the starboard side above the front starboard engine, but there might be more. There is a cargo hold for between 800 and 900 SCU, depending on the variant, although this could change when it's released. There are 4 VTOL engines on the side of the ship, but it'll still be difficult to land the ship safely on a planet or moon. We also don't know how fast it can travel or how far. The size of the ship limits it to only the very largest hangars or having to dock externally to space stations. It'll also be slow to turn or accelerate. The Idris has 4 capital-class hydrogen fuel tanks, a capital-class quantum drive, and a capital-class quantum fuel tank. It should be able to fly through multiple star systems with those fuel tanks. The doors in the front and back of the Idris open up to let ships take off and land. There is a main flight deck through the middle of the ship, and then an auxiliary hangar underneath for utility craft. The Idris can carry 2 medium ships on board, plus 1 utility craft. Typical fighters are the Gladius, Arrow, Hornet, or the occasional bomber like the Gladiator, plus utility ships like the MPUV. Ground vehicles can be carried on the Idris if needed, as it has a ramp from the hangar that extends when landed, and some extra space in the hangar to hold them. The Idris has heavy armor, especially on the front doors, main gun, and nose section, so it can be used for ramming if necessary. The capital-sized shield is also impressive. It takes quite a few torpedoes to take down an Idris, due to all the armor, heavy shields, and point defense, let alone the fighter screen. There are 3 variants: the Idris-M, which is the military version, the Idris-P, which is the peacekeeper version, and the Idris-K, which is an aftermarket upgrade. The M model has a gigantic spiral-mounted size 10 mass driver under the nose to use against other ships, typically large ships. There is a large turret with dual size 7 laser cannons on top, as well as 6 other turrets with dual size 5 laser repeaters scattered around the ship. There are also 4 remote turrets with dual size 4 ballistic Gatlings around the ship too, probably for point defense. On top of that, it has a size 8 missile launcher that carries 10 size 5 torpedoes. The Peacekeeper model is designed for militias and corporate militaries that don't require as much heavy weaponry. The P model is missing the spinal mass driver, the torpedo launcher, and the large turret with the laser cannons, but has 7 turrets with dual size 5 repeaters and 4 remote turrets with dual size 4 Gatling guns, also for point defense. So it is still quite formidable for civilian use. The Idris-K upgrade has a size 10 spinal-mounted laser beam weapon, a front missile turret with size 3 missiles, 6 turrets with dual size 5 repeaters, and 4 point defense turrets with dual size 4 guns. It sits somewhere between the M and P models for weaponry. The beam weapon might require keeping it on target while firing to do more damage, as compared to the mass driver on the M model, which is a single shot at a time. The Idris-P goes for $1,500 in time and quantity limited sales, while the Idris-M is no longer sold, but originally went for $1,000 when it first went on concept. If it were for sale, it would probably be $2,000 now. The Idris-K goes for $1,800, also on time and quantity limited sales. The current loaner ships are the Hammerhead, the MPUV-P, and the Vanguard Harbinger. No word on any paint schemes to buy for them yet. The Idris will be a great ship to take into combat. All the guns, including the large spinal gun, will do amazing damage against enemies. The ship will be very useful taking smaller ships into long-distance dangerous space like Pyro, and you could use the Idris as a simple ship transport if you want. Little fighters won't have the fuel to fly that far by themselves, and solar flares could be a problem. The Idris and its fighter complement will also be great for missions like convoy escort, patrols, escort for larger fleets, rescue missions, and scouting dangerous space. It is a great ship for sending flights to intercept bombers before they reach their targets. Just make sure you don't become a target too. It can escort civilian fleets to provide mobile fighter cover against pirates. You could also load up Marines on the ship to handle boarding actions on enemy ships, bounties, and arresting criminals. The Idris would work well for that, as it has a brig to keep prisoners in and docking ports to dock onto criminal ships. Now remember, the Idris is a ship designed for a full crew, so it works best if you have an org or lots of friends. You'll need people to fly the ship, scan the radar, maintain the ship, man the ATC, man the turrets, fly the fighters, Marines for security, and have ground crew for those fighters as well. A ship like this will need fighter escort and probably smaller corvettes like the Hammerhead or Constellations to keep it safe from bombers. It's still small compared to other capital ships too, so don't expect it to survive against other dedicated military capital ships by itself. Combine the Idris into a fleet of ships and that's when it shines. The Idris will also require a lot of resources to maintain. It has huge fuel tanks, so you'll need the money to refuel and rearm it. Due to the large size, it'll also be restricted in where it can land or dock, so you'll need utility craft for transferring resources, crew, and ammo when not at large stations. When it comes to ship variants, it really depends on what you want to use the Idris for. If you're planning on attacking large ships or being in heavy battle often, then you'll want to get an Idris-M or Idris-K. Although, since the Idris-M is restricted and very rare, your best bet is the Idris-K unless you can salvage or capture an Idris-M from somewhere. Owning an Idris-M might also require special permits, otherwise you could get attacked by the UEE itself. The Idris-K is more of an upgrade for the Idris-P, so it might be easier and more legal to obtain. The giant railgun and laser beam weapons on these two variants will also be difficult to hit targets with. They are fixed weapons that don't gimbal, and the Idris won't be a very nimble ship, but should work well against large and slow targets like other capital ships or ground targets that can't dodge. The K model beam weapon will also be able to do more hull damage than the ballistic railgun on the Idris-M, but it can be blocked by shields, if the target has tough enough shields to hold up, of course. The Idris-P looks to have more storage space than the other variants though, so it'll probably be more useful for civilian orgs, especially if you're buying or selling product or escorting merchant fleets. You could even use it as a hub for shops, buying or selling things like a Banu merchantman or a Kraken does. Ships can land in the hangar and customers can shop in the cargo bay. The P model replaces the top turret with a more standard turret, by the way, so you'll have a lot of smaller turrets. Great for defense against smaller ships such as what pirates might have, or as point defense against incoming missiles. The lack of a heavy railgun or beam weapon also means the P might be a little lighter and more agile than the other variants. It'll also fit better when docking and landing. So, I'm very excited to see when CIG will release the completed version of the Idris. It's probably too much ship for most of us to afford or handle, but it'll be amazing to see it live in Squadron 42, or watching well-organized orgs command one in Star Citizen. Taking off and landing from the carrier bay will be awesome. I hope we get to see it finish soon. Alright, so that's it for the Aegis Idris review. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. You can use my referral code if you decide to jump into Star Citizen, and you'll get 5,000 extra in-game credits. Here's a big thank you to my current patrons. I have a Patreon going for $3 a month. All patrons will have their names listed at the end of my videos, and get first pick on the next item I will cover. So feel free to sign up and let me know what you'd like to see next. Okay, catch you all next time.